Irish guy Adelaide. So here's another edition of the Prem Catchup. And yes, that is its name. Alright lads, there were a lot of naughty things that happened in the Premier League this weekend. Let's just crack on with it because honestly, this weekend was insane. Right, let's go. Brighton 3, Liverpool 0. Liverpool are 9th in the Premier League. They've lost to Man United, Napoli, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Man City, Leeds, Brentford and Brighton. I'm guessing that those fans right now must feel like they got the taste of dead mice in their mouth. This is horrific. Absolutely brutal form. I mean, this team had 2 weeks to recover from getting bullied by Brentford. So now, to travel to Brighton, you've now played against Roberto De Zerbi's team twice this season now. The aggregate score? Liverpool 3, Brighton and Hove Albion 6. That scoreline is so embarrassing. Jurgen Klopp would probably rather be caught weighing himself live on the news. Anything but to have this in his CV. This was horrendous. Absolutely dreadful. And Jurgen Klopp needs to do something big. It seems weird to say this about a club who a few months ago were aiming for a quadruple. So to say that they now need a clear out, yeah, I know. It seems weird, but I think we can all see that some of these players are now just burnt out sausage rolls. Honestly, the likes of Andy Robertson. He's like one of those toys who a hyperactive child plays with day in, day out, for 7 years. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure after all that time, that priceless baby born is now gonna look like that creepy Annabelle doll, just covered in mud and sick. Robertson is finished at 28. But I mean, is anybody surprised? Considering he spent the last 6 years running and running and running like he's in a Terminator film, almost to the verge of begging his legs to fall off. I mean, you need to remember, he's a human being, not a cyborg.
Life at this age is rubbish with no money. Hashtag need a job.
When Brendan Rodgers took the Liverpool gig, this guy was literally setting up emails to Asda and Pizza Hut. This guy would have probably taken a part-time cleaning job in a Scottish library, just spending his lunch break eating Jaffa cakes and reading Twilight on the Loo. I mean, he's since been catapulted into fame and incredible success. So even on a mental note, do you not think he's absolutely exhausted? I mean, he wasn't being suffocated for selfies while living in Hull, and I'm not just picking on him. Even Ibrahim Konate, since returning from the World Cup, has looked like watching a combination of Ozan Kabak and a farmyard cow. Honestly, it was like watching Tony Soprano on a treadmill, or King Kong playing tennis. It just didn't look right. I'm sorry, but if you're getting absolutely humbled by Danny Welbeck, making him look like peak Samuel Eto'o, then you've done something wrong. Listen, brilliant display from Brighton, but honestly, Liverpool, Leandro Trossard was the man who gave you nightmares with a hat-trick at Anfield, but I mean, he wasn't even in the squad. Since we discovered he's actually a spoiled bad boy brat who clearly hates living beside the sea, lads, Liverpool are getting picked apart by Adam Lallana. Isn't he just the equivalent of an empty pizza box that Klopp threw in the bin 3 years ago? Lads, to make matters worse, Lallana turns 35 in January. You'd think he'd be a semi-retired talksport pundit, but no, instead, he's running rings around Fabinho. Liverpool were destroyed by Solly March. What kind of name is Solly? Wasn't he that blue hairy thing of Monsters Inc? Come on, Klopp, where is your pride? The only person in this entire Liverpool squad who would actually be happy with this is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I mean, this is his 4th Premier League start in a row. He's now played in 9 of the club's last 10 games. I mean, it's odd that it's now back on the left wing, something he grew out of doing about 7 years ago. But still, even seeing him back on the Liverpool team sheet, I mean, it'd be like seeing Scrubs back on TV. I mean, this guy is so very clearly Burnley quality, and yet Klopp keeps picking him every week. Arsenal 0, Tottenham 2. Hugo Lloris is a joke. I'm sorry, but this guy who on the face of it looks like he's had a brilliant career. Nearly 150 French caps. He's a world champion who's played in 2 World Cup finals. Yeah, his career is all France, because he's also spent 10.5 years winning nothing at Spurs. He should have known when he first arrived and had to spend the first 2 months sitting on the Tottenham bench behind a 41-year-old man who probably sweats when he eats. Honestly, he doesn't know Brad Friedel probably used to eat donuts and a steak before every Premier League match. But Lloris should have known then that Tottenham would essentially spoil his career. But now, no longer is he better than Spurs. No, now, watching him play football, it's a bit like looking at KSI trying to box. Actually, that joke doesn't really work now, does it? Cause didn't he just knock someone out inside a minute? Oh no, come on. This is a North London derby. Tottenham cannot afford to let Arsenal extend their lead at the top of the Premier League, and yet Lloris literally chooses to throw the ball into his net. I'm sorry, but this guy who's already had his carious moment in a World Cup final against Croatia. If France had gone on to lose that match, oh, maybe Lloris would also have his confidence eaten on toast by the media, and maybe he'd now be having to quit his job as Newcastle number 3. But this mistake, this this was worse. I'm Simon at 36 years of age. Antonio Conte needs to throw this man's contract into a fireplace. Honestly, send him back to his old club Nice, or he can battle it out with Peter Schmeichel's son, because as a Premier League number one, Hugo is done. And apparently the number one choice to replace him is Jordan Pickford, who might actually be a decent replacement. Yeah, I know, he looks like he's probably that odd child who probably used to practice kissing on the snowman in his lawn, but as a Premier League number one, Tottenham could do worse. But as for this match, what a win for Arsenal. Brilliant strike from Martin Odegaard to wrap this game up, although after the match, Aaron Ramsdale gets kicked in the back by someone who looks like Draco Malfoy in a scarf. Honestly, he doesn't look like your classic skinhead oik. No, he looks like someone who probably reads Shakespeare by candlelight, and it probably brings an Ed Sheeran lunchbox to work. But it's not just him. I actually think that Richarlison made himself look like a buffoon with the brains of chocolate milk. Sure, Ramsdale kisses the Arsenal badge in front of the Tottenham crowd. Yeah, probably after they spent 45 minutes insulting his bum, and then Richarlison takes it upon himself to swoop in like Batman, when really he's about as intimidating as Postman Pat. But yeah, he's wagging his finger in his face like an upset Uber driver when a 19-year-old gets sick in his car. Honestly, he's almost shoving up his nose. Lads, Richarlison seems to have been everywhere in the media this season, from those showboating kick-ups against Nottingham Forest, to scoring 2 in his Champions League debut, to winning gold in the tournament at the World Cup, and now this. It all distracts from the fact that actually he is a £50 million buy who's still yet to score for Tottenham in the Premier League. The last time he scored in this division, he was playing for a team 16th in the league. So maybe keep your head down, Richie, before we all remember just quite what a flop you've been. Honestly, Darren Bent scored more than him. Man United 2, Man City 1. I'm gonna say something that will be incredibly unpopular. It was offside! I'm sorry, but it was! Yes, that was a brilliant Derby Day win for Man United. And yes, Erling Haaland did once again look about as dangerous as a sock puppet covered in wheat. But still, by the letter of the law, sure, the Bruno Fernandes goal should have stood. But just because it's a law doesn't mean it makes sense. It's illegal to chew gum in Singapore. It's illegal to feed pigeons in Venice. Lads, it's illegal to wear Winnie the Pooh t-shirts in Poland. And for this, I'm sorry, but we see goals disallowed all the time if a player standing in an offside position is affecting the game. I mean, Czech Teode once had a wonder goal against Man City chalked off because Johan Gouffran was standing near Joe Hart. But this is even more blatant than that. Casemiro rolls the ball through to Rashford, but he doesn't touch the ball, allowing the onside Bruno to score. Sure, but if the referee does not think that an offside Rashford is influencing the play, then clearly he's more delusional than one of the Football Daily nerds. If Rashford isn't there, then Manuel Akanji doesn't track Rashford, and instead both he and Kyle Walker would both come across to trap Bruno in a sandwich. And you would have to think that one of them would have been able to put in a tackle for the ball. Even Ederson is expecting Rashford to shoot, so he's adjusted his body position for him, not Bruno. Isn't that why the Teode goal was ruled out? Because Joe Hart thought Gouffran would head the ball, so he didn't dive? Listen, don't get me wrong, Man United were absolutely brilliant, and Erik ten Hag is building something. But in my eyes, that goal, that's offside. Rashford is blatantly interfering with the play. If he doesn't exist, Bruno does not score that goal. It's really that simple. Sure, you might think that Akanji was never going to have the pace to catch up with the ball anyway. But if there's no Rashford, then Ederson would charge out of his box and pass the ball to safety. The only reason Ederson doesn't come out of his box is because Rashford is there. I mean, what do you think? Because to me, I don't think that goal should have stood. Newcastle won Fulham 0. This was one of the most pivotal games of the Premier League season. I'm sorry, but it was. It's mid-January and Newcastle are 1 point behind Manchester City. What is going on? They are in a genuine conversation to be in the Champions League. Yes, the team with Dan Burn at left back, the one with Chris Wood on the bench, and Sean Longstaff in midfield could realistically be spending this September playing against Real Madrid. What? I'm sorry, but what? But here's the nutty business. They could have lost the game. Fulham were given a penalty with 20 minutes to go at 0-0. Now, usually Andres Pereira will be slotting those spot kicks, right? Oh no, Alexander Mitrovic decides to be the big daddy dog of Newcastle and score the winner against his former club. I mean, I suppose Newcastle fans since the age of 5, and yet here he was, literally grabbing the ball off Pereira, just so he could spend that evening drinking Geordie tears with a straw on the plane. But no, now, he was probably spotted at Newcastle airport crying whilst eating Kit Kats and muffins in the lounge for the penalty. It got ruled out because he kicked the ball twice. How? How? I mean, to be fair, Bono Zenden did that for Middlesbrough in a cup final, and nobody noticed. Honestly, I know it's 19 years later, but justice for Bolton. But yeah, if Fulham had ground out that 1-0 win, they would be 5th on 34 points. And they themselves just 4 points off Champions League football. A Fulham win would have been a major slip up for Newcastle, especially after their previous home match, dropping points at home to Leeds. If Alexander Isak had not popped up with the last-minute winner, that would be 3 Premier League 0-0 draws in a row. And the media would probably be pretending that Eddie Howe ball is about as thrilling as Downton Abbey. Here's the facts though. If you just ignore the B team losing the FA Cup to Sheffield Wednesday, and if you don't count that one, then Newcastle's A team have just kept 8. Yes, 8 clean sheets in a row. The last time they conceded an actual goal was November the 6th. This was the club's 14th clean sheet of the season. 14th! Why is nobody talking about their defence? I'm gonna say this. On form, Sven Botman is the best centre back in the Premier League. If this man is not in the PFA Team of the Year in May, then that's about as clever as eating ice cream off a toilet seat. Listen, I actually get a lot of credit for producing top talent over the years, but the decision to sell Botman to Lille during lockdown for just 8 million euros, when he's probably already better than Matthias de Ligt, absolutely brainless. This guy is absolute class. And a shout out for Fabian Schär too, because Steve Bruce treated this guy like an unreliable Terry Chocolate Orange. I mean, last season he spent 8 games in a row on the bench for a team who didn't know how to win. Yeah, guess what? Schär's been on the winning side 22 times inside a year and hasn't actually lost a single Newcastle game since April. That's 21 consecutive games he's played in a Newcastle shirt and failed to lose. That is insane. Both he and Botman have to be in the PFA Team of the Year. But no, instead it'll probably be a fan favourite like Lissandro Martinez. Nottingham Forest 2, Leicester 0. Nottingham Forest have finally come good. You know what? I'm actually relieved for Steve Cooper, because before he signed that new contract, he could very easily have been sacked in a wet, lonely, damp office, and his reputation as a top-flight coach would have been destroyed, and he'd probably now just have to go and find work in Wigan. But no, now he's winning Premier League games in style. The guy's even able to showboat by giving Jack Colback the entire second half of the pitch. He has finally settled on the right team, and everything you thought you knew about Forest at the start of the season, oh, that's now lying dead in a saucer of milk. For example, like how Nico Williams was their best player at right wing back. Not only is that not true, but he doesn't actually get into their starting 11 anymore. Instead, the supposedly brainless circus clown that is Serge Aurier is actually a pretty reliable right back. I mean, Lewis O'Brien was supposedly a 10 million coup from Huddersfield, one of the best of their summer buys, whilst Morgan Gibbs-White was a laughably overpriced flop. No, O'Brien's on the bench was Gibbs-White. Yes, everybody wants this luxuriously expensive £40 million toy to fail. But he's actually brilliant. Lads, Cooper has formed a strike partnership featuring a winger and a CM. It works. Brendan Johnson's energetic and deadly, while Gibbs-White, it was like watching Ozil in the flesh. Forest are 13th in the league. Honestly, Cooper, well done. Everton 1, Southampton 2. Sack Frank Lampard now. I mean, why not? It's mid-January and they are joint bottom of the league. I have no earthly idea how a home defeat to Southampton does not get an Everton coach the sack. Sure, maybe he's charming in the boardroom. Maybe the owner enjoys having a laugh and a joke with Lampard in their free time. I'm guessing it was probably easier to sack Rafa Benitez when he was an ice queen with the personality of a radiator. But Lampard, I honestly don't understand what Everton's seeing him anymore. Sure, he was able to charge their batteries to squeak survival last season, but that's something an interim manager is able to do. Fine, but if this club has any ambition, you need a top-class coach, not someone who failed to get Derby into the Premier League. We're halfway through the season, and Brighton have twice as many points. You are 16 points behind a newly promoted Fulham, coached by Marco Silva, the guy you sacked 3 years ago. Does that not send alarm bells ringing? Go out there and get anyone. I mean, I've long thought that Rob Hasenhüttl was an overly emotional lemon of a coach who's clearly got a fondness for losing 9-0, but even he would be an upgrade. Lucien Favre has just lost his job at Nice, but the guy's 65 and has coaching experience dripping out his ears. Persisting with Lampard, somebody who's quite clearly a championship standard coach, he's a Chelsea legend, sure, but he's got the tactical knowledge of Gary Monk. Honestly, just get rid. Chelsea won, Crystal Palace 0. Chelsea are still in a mess, but this is a vital win over Crystal Palace, sure, with Kai Havertz netting the winner. But I mean, forget this match. Not only have Chelsea signed Makana Mudryk for £89 million, but they've given him a contract for 8.5 years. This is an attacking winger with 12 career goals. This is not a boy. He's a 22-year-old man with 8 international caps and 0 goals. I know, Cesc Fabregas once signed an 8-year deal at Arsenal when he was still in his teens. Mudryk is not a little boy. He's been legally able to drink beer for 4 years. I might understand this sort of contract for a 16-year-old boy, but this guy is already a quarter of the way through his career. Chelsea have created their very own Winston Bogard in a petri dish. Because giving a raw, unproven talent wages of £100,000 a week, just see what that does to his ego. Factor in the fact that this is a company who are legally bound to paying him this wage every single week until the summer of 2030. His agent has just guaranteed that Mudryk is going to be on fat wages for the rest of his 20s as soon as he signed that deal. Mudryk could have just gone out and signed up for a lifetime supply of Burger King. This guy can literally just stuff his face with donuts and Jaffa cakes. Forget football. Go and take up the sport of chess. Spend 9 hours a day watching The Simpsons after training because you've made it. You have guaranteed yourself millions in the bank until you're 30 years of age. If he does flop, and I do think he will, how can Chelsea possibly get rid? Because do you really think he'll want to give up those monster wages? Honestly, when the Chelsea board are trying to get this modern Arshavin off their books by selling him to Fiorentina or Monaco, he's not going to want to move. I what, just give up on the contract of his dreams? Well done, Chelsea. You've just created a monster. Brentford 2, Bournemouth 0. Okay. I think it's time to sack Gary O'Neill. Yes, he had a nice little honeymoon period with the Bournemouth team. 6 games unbeaten after a 9-0 defeat was incredible. But I think we need to wake up and smell the daffodils. I think it does the club no favours at all that they're actually outside the relegation zone, because it makes O'Neill look like he's doing a good job. I assure you he's not. Since the World Cup, that's 6 defeats in a row, including one match where they let Burnley score 4. Overall, that is 10 defeats in 11. They haven't scored a Premier League goal in over 2 months. Ever since it became public knowledge that their interest in Marcelo Bielsa had waned, O'Neill has just been tactical wet sludge. It's almost as if pressure has melted his brain. Here he is demanding an apology for the Brentford penalty, but look in the mirror, Gary. That run of form is horrible. Honestly, even Martin O'Neill would do a better job. Just pick up the phone and hire Sean Dyche. That's all you have to do. He is the perfect manager for you. Wolves 1, West Ham 0. Wolves under Julian Lopetegui will be absolutely fine. West Ham though, with David Moyes at the wheel, I think it's time to say no. Lads, if there's one thing any football club does not want, it's David Moyes when the rot has set in. Because we've seen, while at Sunderland, he doesn't know how to stop it. Honestly, right now, we're just watching the Sunderland Moyes on Match of the Day. He's beaten, lost for answers, he doesn't know what to do. And the West Ham board seem to know this because apparently they've got a 4-man shortlist to replace him. Mauricio Pochettino, Thomas Tuchel, Rafa Benitez and Nuno Santo. Yeah, that's 5 Champions League finals between those managers. I mean, Tuchel will say no. West Ham have been obsessed with Benitez for years, always sniffing around and what at Newcastle, but this is a relegation battle. He's only ever been appointed once midway through a relegation scrap, and he couldn't keep Newcastle up, although I'm not sure how. They didn't lose any of their final 6 league games, and 3 of them were against Man City, Liverpool and Spurs. He was insanely unlucky not to survive, so maybe he would be a good West Ham coach. But I think considering the set of supporters got sick of Sam Allardyce for not playing the West Ham way, then either Benitez or Santos' style of football would soon have those same fans getting sick into their packet of crisps. But if the Hammers could convince Pochettino to take the job, if there's even a small chance, then sack Moyes now. Aston Villa 2, Leeds 1. I didn't see the match, although, you know Harry Potter used to feel a throbbing in his forehead whenever Voldemort was near? Yeah, I might have known Patrick Bamford finally scored again, because on Friday night, my left foot felt like I was having a heart attack. Let me know when it comes to what do you think about what happened at the weekend, especially let me know about that Rashford goal, or the Bruno goal. What's offside? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe. As always, I'll talk to you in a while.